We're live.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the very best and our very last virtual write-in for camp this year. How's it feel?
Sad.
Yeah, I feel a little sad too. Yeah, welcome. Welcome to this write-in. I think the computer is like tilted a little weird, but that's fine. Yeah, so if this is your first time at a virtual write-in, we'll just give you the lowdown. It's about an hour long, and what we're going to have for you is some short discussions about, different topics in your writing projects, about our writing projects, and then give you some sprints, each 5 or 10 minutes long, that, hopefully will help you kind of get the ball rolling a little more, or, boost your word count, especially as we go into the last few days of camp.
Woo.
Yeah, so tell us all how y'all are doing. How far are you on your writing projects? Like, are you on track for your goal? Are you behind? Like, how are you feeling right now on the 25th of April?
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay.
Okay, that's an okay place to be.
It's better than I used to be, which is just but no, I am. My story's going all right. I may have lowered my writing goal, but that's okay.
That's totally okay.
I like what I'm writing. What about you?
I kind of fell out of the writing process a little bit.
It's okay. That happens.
It's been a challenge.
It's been a challenge.
But I've been kind of working on it peripherally. So I'm going to keep working on it after camp is done, for sure. That's
really good. I think that's kind of the important thing to keep in mind as we kind of wind down the month.
Yeah.
And on that topic, that is actually our theme for today. Our theme is how do you keep the ball rolling after day 30? I know that the end is actually like 5 days away, so you do have a fair bit of time to kind of reach your goal. But since it's a Wednesday, this is the last Wednesday of the month, we're going to kind of condense a lot of the end of camp stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our first topic of discussion right now is kind of about that. We're going to ask, did you get kind of where you wanted to in this story? Kind of, are you on track to meet your goal? And it's okay if you're not. I know I'm not. And yeah, kind of give yourself a chance right now to think about and share in the chat. If you feel like at this stage in the month, you have kind of built up a good foundation of a story that you can kind of keep on working on later on.
I think my biggest problem is that I have a really hard time building the foundation and figuring out what that foundation should be, because I'm always changing it and changing the format and changing the main ideas. And it's
that story's evolving as you're kind of writing it, which is I feel like I would rather have a story where the foundation is kind of changing a lot and growing, rather than one that stays the same all the time. Because that's how you get new ideas. It is frustrating, though. I totally get that. I think I'm kind of in the same way. I feel like at the beginning of the month, I look at my story and I say, here's what it's going to be. Here are the things that are going to happen. Here are some scenes I have in mind that... Yes, it is a frame photo of Blobby. Sorry. Caught me by surprise. What was I saying? Yes, I have a clear idea of what I want at the beginning of the month, and then by the time the month is over, I'm like, oh, they're still in the first tavern.
Yeah.
They have not left yet. But that's okay.
Very Lord of the Rings of you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how my 2016 project went. It was
it's because you spend so much time talking about food.
I do. There's been a lot of talk about seriously, the scene, most of my writing from yesterday was let's go down to get some fish at the market. And they're like, is this the same amount of fish as you gave me the other time? Or are you holding out at me?
Don't write while hungry, folks.
That's actually a good point. Anyway, so let's hear what you're saying in the chat. Yeah, kind of a lot of people mentioning that. First of all, a lot of people are doing really well on their word counts, which is awesome. And again, don't forget, like, even if you are like not super far on your word count goals, that's still X number of words that you didn't write before.
Yeah.
So well done.
And practice that you got that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten.
Yeah. Denny in the chat says, my characters knocked me out and took over. My muse left the country and might be dead. I have no idea what's happening. I feel that. Like,
I feel
my muse
hard.
is constantly on the lam. So like, I get that.
You gotta hunt it down like a wild dog. Okay, that's not my metaphor.
That's not the metaphor I would choose, but that's
I took
also
that from
not
Zay
bad.
Frank. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But you have to hunt it down. You have to chase it. It's not gonna come to you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Your writing inspiration is not going to come to you kind of on its own every time. And I think again, that's the important thing to keep in mind in the months beyond NaNoWriMo, each program. Because it's not going to be easy necessarily it's not always easy to continue a writing routine you've built up without, the specter of like, this is Camp NaNoWriMo. But here's the secret, everyone. NaNoWriMo never really goes away because you couldn't log into the website all year round.
We're always here.
We're not always here.
Okay, that's true.
But
NaNoWriMo
is always here.
This person says they're writing a novel based on their own nanoland with Rhitosaurus, plot bunnies, a wordness monster named Mandura, and a word count dragon.
Please write in Blobby.
Oh my
I
goodness.
think you'll like that a lot. NaNoWriMo's forever. It's true. Sky Bright says, my family gets annoyed with how much I talk about my characters. Anyone else have that problem? I don't talk about any of my writing with my family. Like,
no, me neither.
All. So you have more courage than I do.
Yeah. I found that if I talk to people about it, my fire and excitement for it kind of dies out a little bit.
Oh yeah, I totally get that. There's like a handful of people in my life that I can talk to about my writing, who, like, I can talk to them forever and like it won't feel like I am, hurting my writing at all.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of on like the same, on the same wavelength a little bit.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the right people, but hopefully if you're like in a cabin this month, you've been able to, meet some good writing friends. Rebecca, can I make fan art of Blobby? Yes.
Please.
Please do.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're always learning about yourself as a writer, as a person, through the process of writing, even if it doesn't go the way you want, as mine didn't.
It rarely does go the way we want. Like,
exactly.
That's the thing.
And that's not at all a bad thing. It just means more growth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you want to move on to sprint?
I think so. Yeah. So our first sprint of the day is going to be 5 minutes. And the topic is, how does your story end? Spoiler alert. Explain how your story resolves or write the last few paragraphs. It doesn't need to be the exact ending that your story will have ultimately. But kind of thinking about where you are now, try and write the end of your story. It might be a long ways off. I know with my story, it is a very long ways off, but
same.
Because they're still eating. But
mine is written in the form of letters now. So
80 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. How does your story end? Explain how your story resolves, or write the last few paragraphs and just kind of get a general sense of where you want it to end, if at all. I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. I'll let you know when you've got about half the time left. And begin.
This is a challenging one.
Mhm. Jeez. Sorry, there was a bug.
Did you kill the bug?
Yes. Or no?
What kind of bug was it?
I actually don't know, but it's gone. No, I don't like bugs. Keep writing, keep writing. You got about half the time left. 2.5 minutes. And that's the time. Put your pens down. Cool. Anyway, I had to finish that sentence there. Okay, so tell us, what did y'all write? How does your story end? If you don't want to share because of spoiler alerts, that's okay. You can keep it vague. But also maybe describe like what kind of did you have to think about or address? Like what do you want from your story or from your characters? So what about you? What did you write?
So my story has morphed from like a young adult style thing to like a series of vignettes to finally a series of letters that are like written from a character to her younger sister. And for me, it's been about like everything that she wants her sister to know based on the mistakes that she made, which just seems very cliche, but it's also oriented very much toward everything that like I wish I could put in a YA novel. But am not totally sure that you can do that in a YA novel. So
yeah. Why? I mean, YA is a pretty wibbly wobbly kind of genre.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of wiggle room.
That's kind of like what I was trying to work on.
Cool.
What about you? How's your ending?
I had to think about like where the characters ought to end up. The thing is, with my project, it's kind of almost like a frame story because it's essentially the main character reflecting on her childhood as she is like when she's like 50. And this main story kind of ends when she's like closer to like 30. So it's clear like the ending is not really the ending.
Yeah.
But like that's just kind of where she's leaving off this story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of thought about like what's a good way to kind of end that. I think that had to do with the general tone I want from the story. So like generally happy or kind of ambiguous. Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of ways to go, but I think I like this as an ending. So what did y'all write? A lot of people saying their main characters are dying, which is impressive. Yeah.
Making Blobby an official camp friend. Yay!
As if
camp
it wasn't
caffeine.
already.
I love it.
Libra Snowy says, well, my main character has been given a task to do, but a love interest has been taken, so she's forming a motley crew of unlikely friends to help her. Nice. I mean, is there really any other kind of motley crew other than the band? I love it, though. Let's see, the ending. This is Donald Anderson in the chat. The ending perhaps is revealing the meaning behind the title, but there perhaps will remain a mystery and be left out. I like that.
My characters learn to accept themselves and not run away from who they are, including the stuff they hate. They learn to deal with their problems instead of hiding them.
It's a very human story.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of endings seem to be like almost cliffhangers, like leaving a little bit of room for a sequel, which is always very good. I feel like in my experience, having a story end like definitively, even if you're not sure if you want to write a sequel or if there's going to be a sequel, kind of leaving some things a little bit open-ended, I think is always a good kind of way to go. You know,
yeah.
Keep them guessing at least a little bit.
I like to keep things like when I stop writing for the day, I like to leave things open-ended for the next day so I know exactly where I'm going.
It's very good.
So you can just pick it up and start writing.
Zara writes, I once wrote the sequel before the first one. I mean, that's how they did Star Wars, right?
That's true.
I mean, technically. Amber Blue, are publishers more likely to sign you on if you write series? Because I have zero interest in writing series. It really depends on the type of publisher, like the genre.
Yeah.
It's kind of a mystery to us too. But write what you want to write. That's the important thing. So that'll come through.
Cool. Oh, do you want to move on to the second
Yeah, let's do that. You want to lead that one?
Yeah. So going back to kind of our theme, how do you keep your momentum going beyond day 30? What are your techniques for motivating yourself to continue writing, even if you don't necessarily have like camp to motivate you? Do you set a calendar? Do you do personal challenges on the Nano site? Do you block off specific times to write?
Right.
Do you have like a little writing place in your home or something? How do you keep that going?
That's a really good and important thing to discuss. I know that November, the traditional goal is 50,000 words, which means 1,667 words a day, give or
Yeah.
take. And I mean, if you've done NaNoWriMo before, you know, like that can be pretty tough to like keep up for 30 days, let alone,
Yeah.
you know, more than that. But I mean, in a way, for some people, honestly, it's like if you can do that every day, then who's to stop you from writing, you know, 1,600 words another day and another day and another day? I think the important thing to keep in mind as a writer is that once you kind of get into the habit, if you keep up the habit, it gets easier and your writing gets better.
And also you get more ideas and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sarah B in the chat says, return to what inspired you to write in the story in the first place. That's a really good tip. Think of you know, day 30, the end of each NaNoWriMo session. Not so much as an ending to your story, but like, you know, the next step or
like this is a good like propelling point.
Yeah.
And how can you keep that momentum going?
If you can do 30 days, you can do 60 days, probably. Yeah.
One person says, I'll go over another part of my book or go over my outline.
Mm-hmm.
Another person says, I have a bullet journal. Yeah, I love bullet journaling. All right.
I love it in theory, and then whenever I try to bullet journal, it just looks like a mess.
I'm a super like visual person, so I love it.
Yeah.
It's my only way I can keep track of my life.
Nice.
Don't binge on video games. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
there, my friend.
I think yeah, same. I think kind of going back to November, what we often do, you know, in December is like we encourage writers to take a break a little bit. You know, you've done a big writing marathon, but then, you know, step away from your story a little bit and then come back to it, kind of fresh-faced.
Yeah.
I think that's always, you know, that can be pretty healthy, as long as you remember to kind of come back to your writing. Or, you know, alternatively, at the end of the month, I think this is what I'm going to do. At the end of the month, kind of whether or not your story is done, take a step back and either, you know, cut down on your word counts, or write something else, or, you know, do some other creative activity so that you're still kind of in the habit, you know?
Yeah. This person says, what motivates me is when I find things like Adobe InDesign. I find new ways to write my book and it gets exciting. I'd like to hear more about that. That sounds super awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a sore throat.
Take a break from my main project.
And a phrase in the chat says, does anyone else find it hard to find motivation to write when you're reading a really good book? I find that as well. If I'm reading something really good, sometimes I'll feel like, wow, my writing is nowhere near this good. It'll never be this good. At the same time, I think you have to remember, one, that piece of writing has been through like a million edits to get to where it is now. And number two, maybe use that as motivation to keep going, like keep progressing your writing. Like sometimes I'll read a book or I'll watch something that I'm like, wow, like I want to be that good. I want to do that, you know?
For me, a lot of times it actually kind of helps my writing because it's weirdly inspiring to play with words and to, I don't know, sometimes I read things in certain tones, and then if I pick up writing right after I read it, I'll be writing in that tone too, and it actually kind of helps me get out of my normal
comfort zone.
Yeah, my comfort zone or my normal kind of style of writing, and it really helps push me beyond.
I can totally relate. I remember like 2 years ago now, I read House of Leaves. Have you read that? I read House of Leaves over winter break, and all of my writing for like the next month was like bizarre, you know.
I love it.
I mean, look, pick up the book if you can at some point. Like it's a good read. It's a good read, but yeah, it's interesting and it's got a very unique style. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Person says, yeah, great authors motivate me, but some intimidate me. They are very intimidating.
Yes.
But there's actually a really good pep talk about that. It's like, it's not about trying to get to the point where they are. You know, it's
Mhm.
about creating your own thing. You know, their story has already been told.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need more Hemingways in the world. We had a Hemingway. Like, be your own writer.
Be you.
Because
Yeah.
that's what we really need, is we need your stories.
Absolutely. That's a good tagline.
That is our tagline. Oh, okay, you're being sarcastic. Gotcha.
I forgot actually, because I can't read backwards. Good. You want to go on to the next sprint?
Sure, let's do it.
Cool. So with all that in mind, keeping the momentum going, kind of trying to think about the end of the month not as the end point, but as just a milestone. For our second sprint, we're going to ask you, have your characters meet some major turning point, like a deadline or a milestone or something else, and have them figure out what to do next. So again, kind of as an example, to get kind of meta, if your characters in the story were doing NaNoWriMo, and the whole story is about them doing NaNoWriMo, if they reach day 30, what's going to happen next for them? Are they going to kind of keep going? Are they going to keep working on the story? Are they going to take a break? Whatever it is, thinking about what your characters do after meeting a major turning point or change. And as always, I forgot to mention this before, if you don't have to do this sprint after you have to do this prompt, you can kind of write whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want.
And also, if you are like close to your word count goal or a milestone, be sure to share it in the chat if you meet it today. We'll give you a shout out. Yeah, I think that's any other thing that I forgot or
no.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna have 10 minutes, and I'll let you know at the 5-minute mark, and begin. Got about 5 minutes left. And that's the time. All right, put your pens and your writing fingers down. So, let's hear it. What did y'all write? What did you write? What kind of milestones or turning points have your characters had to overcome?
I tried to get something and then I didn't actually get there. I kind of went on a long route to get there and I didn't finish the route. So what about you?
I thought about kind of some of the big major turning points that happen in the story and how my main character would react to each.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of big underlying point that I found was that the personalities of each of her kind of parents kind of becomes more and more clear with each of those turning points and kind of how that's impacted her.
Interesting.
So yeah, we'll have to see how it kind of works out when it's actually written. But yeah. So let's hear what y'all are writing in the chat. Edda Phrase says, I write about the moment when my character discovers how to finally use her powers. Nice. That's very cool. What kind of powers?
Power to finish a story.
I need that power.
Same.
Which Toby says, I was actually still working on the ending because I got super into it. That's okay too. That's awesome. My character was nominated for an Oscar. That's Jamie Bryant. That's awesome. What kind of Oscar was it?
Death and betrayal. That's a real theme.
And a phrase. Oh, she has telekinesis. That's very cool. Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah. Cool. Right. I think we ought to move on to our next discussion.
Feral kitten trying to eat his brother.
Wait, the kitten, the kitten's brother or the character's brother? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's cool. Either way, Zara writes, Kayla and her friends suddenly heard a massive gumpo behind them. They all jumped and turned around to see a small, round, grass green T-Rex standing there.
Are T-Rexes really grass green?
They can be.
I mean.
Well, that's not grass green.
I mean, T-Rexes like.
They come in all shapes and sizes and colors. I think. I wasn't really there for it.
I don't know. Maybe you studied it in school. I didn't.
I'm saying I wasn't there for the T-Rexes.
That's too bad.
For you?
Yeah, for
cool.
me.
Oh, nice.
Not for you.
Cool. You want to move on to the next discussion?
Yeah. Okay. Are we 3?
Yeah. Discussion 3.
Okay. So in terms of thinking about like how the momentum's going and how we're gonna kind of keep going, how will you continue to challenge yourself? What did you do really well at with this story? And what do you need to work more on? Like what kinds of things are you going to be kind of focusing on developing as a writer? Maybe you need to, really learn how to do dialogue, or maybe you struggle with like thick description, or maybe you struggle with setting or world building, or the other thing I was going to say about reading, when I read other authors, is it really helps me remember how to write those things, especially like the things that I'm not as good at. And then I can kind of like imitate the way they do it for a while before I kind of take it and make it my own. And that's one strategy for learning how to do that kind of stuff. So I wanted to kind of talk about how you're going to keep challenging yourself, what things you want to keep working on, and what things you have like to go, where are you going from here, basically, to continue to grow and continue to write.
I'm seeing a lot of great stuff in the chat. Marinette says, I need to focus on realism. Sorry, I need to scroll up here. My stories are good, but I kind of gloss over important moments because they're difficult to write. That's okay. That's kind of, again, you're in the first draft right now. It's okay to gloss over things because you can always fill them in later. I'm
doing really well with action scenes. I need to move away from cliche, and I need help with better world building. That's a good movement.
Garnet in the chat says, my heroine becomes blind early on, so all the other senses and dialogue have become really important in her half of the narrative. That's an interesting kind of take on that. I guess if you're having a first-person story, you couldn't really do a lot of like physical description. So that's an interesting challenge.
That is really interesting.
Better plotting, character personalities. That's great.
I want to work on not doing summaries, but actually writing scenes. Amen, fam.
Yes,
that's so my problem too.
Well, that's what I'm doing a lot.
Struggle with that
in these sprints, because I can't. It's hard for me to jump into like write a scene right now. I'll be like, okay, here's what I want this scene to be like.
I'm the opposite. These sprints are really helpful for me to sit down and like, what is happening? Not, oh, what happened?
Yeah.
You know?
World building and grammar. Grammar. I don't really think too much about grammar in my writing, but when it comes down to dialogue, grammar and dialogue, that's an interesting. They have an interesting kind of dynamic because people don't always speak grammatically.
Yeah.
You know, and so thinking about like, is this if you've got a character who doesn't speak like super proper, you know, kind of getting out of that mindset of like, I need my writing to be grammatical can be difficult. So I definitely get that.
Humor is a problem.
Humor is
really hard.
Oh yeah, totally. My issue is my sense of humor doesn't necessarily translate. Well, it doesn't necessarily translate to the page all that well. Still telling you more than showing. Lynn Leatherwood in the chat says, okay, my problem is I'm publishing one book, writing this one, and writing an entire screenplay all at the same time, so time is short. Any suggestions? Find more time in the day. But no, for real though, like, it's okay to have like multiple projects going on at once, I think. Kind of everyone's different.
Yeah.
I think, for me, with this project, the thing that I felt like I did pretty well on that I didn't actually expect was conveying details about like the world and character personalities just through like minutia. You know, I feel like the story's pretty bare bones right now, and again, like I mentioned, a lot of the dialogue is like, you know, how much is this packet of fish?
Right.
You know, but little details
really development.
Yeah, it's not so much development, but little details that go in and kind of blend in with the minutia. That reveal other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting because someone here said using the slang of the world I built instead of the slang of the world I live in, which to me sounds very like Clockwork Orange style. If you've ever read that.
Yeah.
Which is really powerful in like narration and like the way that characters talk can really say a lot about them and like the way that they live and the way that they experience the world.
So yeah, I think the important thing right now is to just think about, you know, celebrate the things that you did well. Kind of reflect on kind of how far you've come as a writer, especially at this kind of milestone. And yeah, try and like think about, you know, what you felt, you know, either things that you expected or you didn't expect to be challenging. You know, whatever that may be. Thinking about that. And with that, I think we'll move on to the third sprint, right?
Okay, yeah. How long is the third sprint?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah. So sprint number 3, which is the final sprint of this write-in, it's 10 minutes, and it's going to be basically kind of what we talked about. Find something you felt you struggled with before, either conceptually or a specific scene or something. Find something you felt like you struggled with before, and then try your hand at it again. So again, maybe there's a scene from the early part of your story that right now you feel like just wasn't all that good or was really hard to write. And now with most of the month behind you, just try and take a crack at it again. All right, so I'm going to start the timer. And as always, you don't have to do this prompt. And I'll let you know at the 5-minute mark and begin. Yes. Got about 5 minutes left. And that's the time. How you feeling?
Pretty good.
Yeah? I feel okay. That's it. That's our last sprint. So what'd you all write? What's something you struggled with before, and how did it go when you tried it again? Let's go for a couple minutes.
Well, like I said, I struggle with like the writing of the scene rather
Mhm.
than just telling what happened. So that's what I've been working on, and it's very clumsy for now, but that's okay.
Nice.
What about you?
I kind of wrote about how I mentioned like I have a hard time sometimes like getting the story like going because I get caught up in the minutia and kind of just like very slowly building things up. But I basically had my main character kind of just get asked like, give me a brief summary of your life so far, and just like in this section she just hits on like, here are the major things that happen in the story, which I think is really helpful because it kind of help me prioritize like what things need to happen as the story goes along. So yeah, I think that was helpful for me.
Nice.
Yeah, what did some of y'all write about? Noelle in the chat says a character is coming out to her mother. That's really important. Lynn Leatherwood says, I wrote about my main character getting giant bird wings and trying to figure out how to fly. That was hard to figure out since personally I haven't flown on my own pair of wings. Me neither. So that's definitely tough. Gang scene a lot of great word counts on this sprint. Ooh, Hannah says, I'm 1,000 words away from being on track. Very nice.
Nice.
I need to count up my words. Well, I'm counting my words. I need to figure out how many minutes I've done. Katya Ivanenko says, I continue writing about how my character was meditating. Boring, I know, but it's important to the story. I think those meditative moments are pretty important.
Yeah, that's pretty big for like character growth.
Yeah. Nice. Zara writes, I have finished, which is my 9th camp win. Well done.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. So hopefully this sprint and the other ones have helped y'all kind of get a little bit further on your story. Maybe get a better idea of what are some things that you want to work on in the future after the month ends. Yeah. What else you want to say? Anything else about that?
If you're in the Young Writers program, you still have time to submit your a short story for the Young Writers program contest. It closes on the 30th of April at midnight. So please submit those because we're excited to read them. Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. A couple of things. Don't forget to verify your projects because you cannot win unless you verify your project, even if you met your goal. There's a number of ways you can do that on the website, but the main one is copy and paste your story into the verify box, and it'll count your words, and then you'll be a bright and happy winner. Yeah, just keep on trucking, beyond the month. As we said, this is our last virtual write-in. There will be a webcast on May 3rd at 10 a.m. Pacific time with Julie Duffy on this YouTube channel. It's about short stories. We won't be there, but guarantee that it's going to be a good time. And don't forget, camp happens again in July. And there will be more virtual write-ins then, and with fresh faces.
Yes, we will not be here, but someone else will be.
We'll be watching for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Chris says, no, it's going to be great. But yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah, this camp, and then in November if you were with us then. But yeah, cool. All right, see y'all around, and good luck.
Bye.
Bye.
Good luck with your stories.